My girlfriend of over 2 years said something when I proposed to her that flipped everything I ever believed in. What followed years later? Let's just say, some people only know what they want after losing it. My name's Jake, I'm 28, and this is a story on how some people don't know what they want until they've lost what they had. My girlfriend, Emma, and I had been together for over 2 years. We met at a friend's birthday party. That first meeting turns into something permanent that neither of us was aware of before coming to that party. We began talking fully, and I found out that she worked in marketing, full of energy and big opinions. I was more low-key and prefer my things structured. We were opposites, but in that comfortable way that makes you think you found balance. Even some of our friends felt she was the perfect match for my quiet life. Things were solid between us for a long time. We'd travel, hang out with friends, and try new things, which were mostly her suggestions and ideas. We'd binge-watch terrible cooking shows. We fought over movie genres. She loved horror. I hated jump scares. She dragged me to haunted houses and many more things we did together. We had a rhythm that worked, even though we have occasional disagreements, but it's nothing that felt unfixable. At least, not until I decided to take the next step and started to think long-term. Before I finally asked her to be my wife, there were so many quiet signals I missed. During the night, we stayed up until 3 a.m., talking about our childhood fears. Emma spoke about growing up in a house that made her always compete for attention. She said unpredictability made her feel alive, like she had to chase adventures and challenges to stay grounded. I, on the other hand, had come from a quiet family that avoided conflict. I found safety in planning. Those differences of our nature bonded us at first, but I never knew that over time they would become the reason things went the way they did. In the weeks leading up to the proposal, there were moments that now, in hindsight, feel like warning signs. I had slowed Emma down with her frequent going out and trying out new things. I suggested being indoors and having quiet moments and discussing our future. But when the conversation about starting a family, having kids, and tuning down the adventures comes around, I would notice a little pause in her replies. Even when I tell her that I want us to calm things down a bit, I would still catch her scrolling endlessly on her phone, eyes darting through reels and posts about solo travel, digital nomads, and life on the road. I was unsure if she was dialed in with my ideology of the future, but how would I know if I don't ask her? I decided to propose to her privately. I felt that doing it intimately would show that I put much thought into it. It was on a weekend, so I cooked her favorite dinner, set the table like it was a holiday, and lit candles even though it was 85 degrees. I remember pacing the kitchen, rehearsing what I'd say, wondering if I should go on one knee or just hold her hand. I was a little bit nervous, but at the same time, I believed she'd say yes. I thought she was ready for forever. Turns out I was wrong. While we were eating, I brought out the ring and asked her to marry me. She was speechless for some seconds, then said, "I love you, Jake, but I'm not ready for the boring couple life. I want to feel young and have fun for now." I never in a million years expected this response. I thought we were on the same page. Turns out I was building a future with someone who wasn't even finished with her past. She insisted she wasn't rejecting me, just the idea of commitment. She said she wanted to explore life, travel, meet people, stay out late, and feel untethered. I realized then that she wasn't the one for that journey. I was the destination she wanted to postpone. I accepted her response, and we ended the relationship. She moved out the next day to stay with her friend. And just like that, our 2-year rhythm unraveled. In the first month following the breakup, everything felt surreal. I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking about everything. I deleted old messages, then restored them. I stared at the photos longer than I should have. My life was miserable. There were nights I would take long drives, not headed anywhere. Just me and the road and the hum of the engine. I didn't know how to process the pain I felt. I began writing letters I never sent, one for every emotion I couldn't say out loud. Some were angry, some apologetic. Most were just echoes of someone trying to process how quickly love can vanish. I questioned everything. Was it love to begin with? It was easy for her to throw what we had away without thinking about it. By the third month of being miserable, my friend forced me into therapy, which helped. One time in therapy, I was asked to describe my mornings without Emma, and I realized I'd started enjoying making coffee again, just for me. I began to learn how to be alone and enjoy the moment. After a while, the silence no longer felt punishing. I made coffee, took it out to the balcony, and noticed things I hadn't seen in months. I realized I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living again. Meanwhile, almost immediately after our breakup, Emma's Instagram was active with festival photos, blurry selfies with new guys, and captions about freedom and rediscovery. As I was finding my feet, I heard through mutual friends who were encouraging me to get myself together that she had a new guy. According to their description, he was everything I wasn't: tattoos, a van life aesthetic, always on the move. They went on spontaneous road trips, hiked remote trails, and danced at desert raves. It was loud, chaotic, and completely her style. After hearing about how easy it was for her to replace me, I felt bad, but I watched from a distance. To me, she had chosen noise over what we had. About a year after the breakup, the emotional fog began to thin. I wasn't over it completely, but I started reclaiming pieces of myself. I reconnected with old hobbies. I took up running again, just a few miles in the morning to clear my head. I spent time with friends I'd unintentionally drifted from. I started to feel less like a man who'd been left, and more like someone finding his footing again. I moved into a new apartment, a downtown loft with high ceilings, exposed brick, and a view of the skyline that made mornings feel promising. That place didn't carry any memories like my old space. The walls were bare for a while, but it felt good. It was during this time that I met another lady who would gradually mean so much to me. She was calm in a way that made you want to slow down. We met online, no wild story there. Just a few exchanged messages that turned into a coffee date. I didn't tell her much about my previous relationship at first. Just enough to be polite as we get to know each other. But she didn't press. She seemed to understand that people carry quiet things they might want to talk about. The new lady introduced me to her world slowly. She wasn't all about grand gestures. Instead, she remembered little things I'd say in passing. There was no rush, no pressure, just presence. She and Emma couldn't have been more different. Where Emma thrived in chaos, she found power in stillness. Emma lit up rooms, always needing to be seen. The new lady, by contrast, knew the strength of observing quietly, speaking only when something needed to be said. With Emma, love felt like a roller coaster, exciting, unpredictable, but always on the verge of derailing. With the new lady, it felt like a well-worn path through a quiet forest, still full of discovery, but safe, nourishing, grounded. I hadn't known how much I craved that until I experienced it. Being with her made me realize how often I had confused intensity for depth. One evening, my new girlfriend and I ended up watching old family videos on her laptop. She hesitated before opening the folder, warned me it was unfiltered stuff, some of it emotional. Her dad had passed away years ago, and this was one of the few keepsakes she had. We watched her 8th birthday party. She laughed and cried at once, and I didn't say anything, just held her hand. She looked at me mid-video and whispered that she hadn't shown this to anyone in years. That night, I realized how much she trusted me not just with her time, but her past. By the second year after ending things with Emma, things with my new girlfriend had evolved naturally. There were no games, no second-guessing, just a steady rhythm of mutual respect and slow unfolding. She celebrated my small wins. She saw me clearly, not just as a safe choice, but as someone becoming whole again. We kept things low-key. She never asked me to label what we were. She just kept showing up, with patience and presence. It was enough. It was around this time. The past circled back in an unexpected way. I ran into Jess, Emma's best friend. She looked surprised to see me, but smiled. We caught up politely. Then, with a kind of reluctant honesty, she told me Emma had been asking about me. Apparently, things with her then-boyfriend had imploded. I was told that day that they had a fight in Tulum, something about money, control, and a canceled return ticket. Her boyfriend left her stranded mid-trip. After that, she bounced through a string of short flings. None of them lasted. Jess said Emma had started showing up late to everything. She'd started drinking more, enough to raise eyebrows. Jess said Emma would sometimes talk about how she might have made a mistake, but never directly. Just vague comments after a few drinks. According to Jess, Emma had a meltdown recently when she showed up at Jess's door crying. When Jess finally got her to talk, Emma said she didn't know who she was anymore, that the freedom she'd craved felt hollow now. She had chased adventure, but it never stayed. Emma confessed that everyone she met seemed exciting at first, but none of them made her feel known. She admitted that, for the first time, she felt genuinely lost, not just in the world, but in herself. That night, she passed out on Jess's couch, and the next morning, she barely said a word before leaving. It wasn't rock bottom, but it was close. I asked Jess why she is telling me all these, and Jess responded, telling me that Emma has realized her mistake and she needs me. I smiled and told her that it's already too late. I didn't allow the conversation to stretch as I told her it was good running into him. Eventually, Emma messaged me some days after. Said she wanted to catch up. Just coffee to talk. We met at the same cafe we used to go to on lazy Sunday afternoons. She looked put together and beautiful as always. We talked about safe things at first. Weather, work, music. Then she asked me if I ever thought about us. At the cafe, she told me she'd spent the past month thinking about that night I proposed. That she'd replayed it in her head 100 times, and every time, she saw the fear in her own face. She admitted she hadn't been ready, not just for marriage, but for being truly known. She said something about how love felt like exposure. Vulnerability made her flinch. She was drawn to people who didn't ask for her full story, because telling it meant she'd have to face parts of herself she wasn't proud of. There was no drama in her words, just quiet honesty, a kind I wish we had shared sooner. I told her I had peace now because I was already healed and had moved forward with my life. I had found someone who didn't view my consistency as boring, who didn't need chaos to feel alive, and who appreciated calm. Emma didn't argue. She just nodded slowly, like she knew this was coming. Maybe she had felt all along that I would find someone better than her, and she was right. When we stood up to leave, she hesitated. Looked like she wanted to say something else, but then just smiled, wished me well, and walked away. That was the last time I saw her in person. After that cafe meeting, I found myself journaling more often about myself. It was about what I learned from the whole encounter, how I tiptoed around my needs, often attending events I didn't genuinely enjoy to keep the peace. I acknowledged how often I'd over-explained, over-apologized, and over-invested, thinking that love meant sacrificing yourself. But real love doesn't ask you to dim your light to keep someone else from feeling overwhelmed. It asks you to shine fully and trust the right person won't flinch. As I reflected on everything, one thing struck me the most: how familiar her pain felt. We were both afraid once, just of different things. I was afraid of losing someone I loved. She was afraid of committing. That difference, more than anything, had undone us. I no longer saw her as the girl who left me. She was just a woman trying to outrun her shadows, the same way I had once tried to earn love by being safe. Healing wasn't about winning. It was about understanding the wound. And in that sense, we both got what we needed, even if it wasn't each other. I do not doubt where my new girlfriend stands. She matches my mood perfectly. I don't need to do too much to fit in her world, and even when I am not speaking, she understands. There was one evening when I was cooking dinner, music playing low in the background, and Sarah came up behind me, hugged me, and said nothing. And in that moment, I realized how far I'd come from the version of myself that once needed someone else's approval to feel worthy. I could feel her energy. She would want forever with me. I wasn't just moving on from the past. I was building something real. Quietly. Steadily. For the first time, I took note that I wasn't surviving love. I was living it. I was okay now, and I am ready for anything and everything. Some heartbreaks feel like endings, but they're often just the start of something better. If there's anything I learned from all of this, it's that not everyone who says, "I love you," is ready to live it. Some people need to chase noise to understand the value of peace. And some of us? We just need time to rediscover that our steadiness was never a flaw. Because when you finally stop chasing the wrong kind of love, the right one doesn't need to shout to be heard. It arrives quietly and stays without asking you to change. Because the right person won't confuse consistency for boredom. They'll see it for what it truly is. Security, depth, love. And they won't run from it. They'll build with it.